It's PGA Championship week. We're back to the majors. Second major of the year. Who is going to win? Fairway to Heaven, right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. It starts in 30 seconds. And a very good evening, everybody. Welcome to Fairway to Heaven right here on the Philadelphia Sports Network. We're live. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, you know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow on all social media platforms. If you want to get interactive with the show, best place to do that is on the YouTube page, Philadelphia Sports Network YouTube page. We can answer your questions, your thoughts, anything you want to talk about this week's PGA Championship. I'm your host, Phil Stiefel, at Beard of Knowledge. We got the Swagman in the house tonight, Sam Wagman at Swagman95. Good evening, Sam. How you look really cool with those headpieces in.
We're laughing about this before the show. I had the AirPods in. I'm trying to look hip. I'm trying to look, somewhat young since I'm approaching 30, and I assume won't be able to call myself young anymore. But they did not work, so we are back to the regular earbuds tonight. But
I gotta make a joke and call somebody else all the time. And anything to get a smile on the two of our faces, because our Sixers have been such a disappointment yet again. And the only way, Sam, to get over the Sixers defeat is by picking winners this week, gambling and on the DraftKings board for this week's PGA Championship. And Sam, I was telling you before the show, I love the PGA Championship. I had my best week in the majors last year with Justin Thomas and the PGA. I love carnage. I love to see pros struggle on tough, difficult golf courses. What are your thoughts when you're looking at tournaments that you like? Do you like the tough courses, or do you want to see the birdie fest, like the Mexico Open or the John Deere Classic? Like, where do you prefer to watch and to gamble on?
I think if you can find a healthy mix, it's great. Like, I don't know how everyone felt about watching, the Birdie Fest at the Open Championship last year, but I loved watching that, even because, at least we saw a bunch of the top elite guys in the world battling it out all the way down, to the final hours of sunlight on Sunday evening at the old course. I was happy to see that, but I like a good old, grind it out type of win, as much as anybody else. And that's why I love, like tournaments like the US Open and the PGA Championship, because those are typically courses that are really, really tough. You get these Northeast style courses where the rough is long and the greens aren't that big and the fairways are narrow. And, it really makes you try to do everything well. And that's when we get to see these guys really at the peak of their abilities, is when they have to do everything perfect to get that win.
And that's, when you're building a model, a typical golf week, there's so many different factors to look into. Par 4 scoring in this bucket, or, some kind of, shots gained stat, whatever. Like me, when I'm looking at the PGA Championship or the US Open, I'm looking at the last 24 rounds, the best tee to green players, the best ball strikers, the best drivers of the golf ball, I'm looking at the core 4 or 5 stats as the most important driving factor, and in a very short window, because you want the guys that are in prime, condition at this. You can't have a guy that's missed 7 cuts and think that they're just going to contend at a PGA Championship type course, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely not. And, especially a course like Oak Hill, plus we have the benefit of this being a course that pretty much none of these pros are going to be used to. And possibly the only one that I'm really used to it is Rory McIlroy. And that's because his wife is from Rochester. He's a member at Oak Hill. So he's probably played it in the last 4 years since the major renovation. But the guys who played this course in 2013, they won't recognize it that much. This course has undergone a complete renovation. The bunkers are deeper. The trees are, lesser and gone. And, everything about this course is just a lot more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it is. We'll get to some of these comments. Wyndham Clark is on my card to talk about. Justin Sue is on my card to talk about. Marshawn, we are not talking Sixers. Wait till tomorrow morning. We'll get back to Sixers talk tomorrow morning. But you mentioned it's Oak Hill, upstate New York, 2013. Jason Duffner won this event at 10 under, set the course record. But the course has been completely revamped. Jason Duffner's not even teeing it off. I don't know if you saw the picture of his.
I did. That's probably why I withdrew. Couldn't bear to look at that. They did that man dirty.
It didn't even look like a man in his little bust there.
Looked like a cartoon. Looked like a cartoon. His hair was all frizzy. He looked like
awful.
I can't remember what I got my eye on.
I had my mind set on somebody, but I couldn't figure out who it was that I was thinking of at that moment. But this course, it's now down to a par 70. It's 7,400 yards. It's going to be one of the longest courses on tour this year. And when you're talking 7,400 yards, par 70, it's in upstate New York in May, so it's going to be cool in the morning, so there's not going to be a lot of rollout, damn things. You're talking long, narrow fairways. So you obviously got to find guys that drive the golf ball really well and have really high club head speed, because that also helps with your iron shots out of the rough. I was watching Rick Run Good, his DFS preview, and he did like a satellite over top image of some of these fairways. They're 20 yards or less wide at their at the landing zone of drives. So you need guys that can hit the ball a ton, but also when they're in the rough, because they will be in the rough, have the power to get out of that rough to these super difficult greens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's just going to be really tough for a lot of these guys, because the off the tee game is going to be so brutally important, and we have some of these guys, but something that's going to be near equally important is the ability to just get up and down, scrambling around the green, sand saves gain with these deep bunkers. And the greens are not large, they're not small, they're around 4,500. It's a little bit below average, but it's nothing crazy small. But these greens are going to be very fast. There's a new filtration system under the grass there that's going to enable these greens to roll out much quicker. There were guys who were on the ground today as some of these guys got their practice rounds done. Guys like Shane Lowry, who has some of the safest hands on tour, were flubbing it out of short-sided bunkers. I mean, Colin Morikawa, who's one of the best iron players on the planet, struggling to get out of the rough a foot in off the fairway. I mean, this is a course that you literally have to be so precise, and your accuracy has to be extremely pinpoint. So the guys that are sprayers off the tee need not apply here.
So when you were building your models and all this week, were you focused on off the tee, driving distance? Are you focused on a little of both, or how were you? Because when there's a course that is so heavily in certain categories, I sometimes double dip. Like off the tee and driving distance, they're different, but they can kind of overlap a little bit. And I thought it was so important. When I was building my model this week, I put 25% between the two categories. You know what I mean? Because I wanted a lot of exposure to both the distance and the overall off the tee game. Do you tend to do that as well, or do you just pick one or the other and just focus on it?
No, I've pretty much gone with off the tee as a central model, and I left driving distance off because what I think about, I actually view driving accuracy a little more higher than driving distance. I know you need to be long on this course. That's definitely not in doubt. But I find that it's easier to be longer. And, some of these guys, what we consider long and what they consider long are two different things. Like Sungjae Im hits the ball, nearly 298 yards on average. That's not going to rank too highly. It ranks outside the top 100, but it's still plenty long to deal with some of these holes, And as long as you have a really good second shot, your driving distance can be mitigated. So I looked for guys, if they weren't especially long off the tee, as long as they were elite iron players and elite longer iron players in particular, with that 200 plus proximity, I was absolutely fine with including them on the card.
Okay, that seems fair enough. So real quick, I do, before we get into the specifics of each player and their odds and their DraftKings prices, I think there's something very interesting we have to address, and that's the LIV situation. Because it's the second major, the second time we're seeing the LIV golfers that are still qualifying for majors in these events. And when it came to the Masters is a different cookie, because everybody, the course history there, the fact that so many guys make the cut, out of the people that really stand a chance, because you take out the old timers and some of the amateurs. There's a lot of 6-for-6 lineups and a good chance to make it through the weekend. And you saw some guys at Live, obviously Brooks Koepka, who almost won the thing, but a bunch of those Live guys did contend and did play pretty well at the Masters. But this is a different cookie, the PGA Championship, I think. And when you're looking at the odds have kind of gone away from our favor, and the DraftKings prices have gone away, and the ownership percentages for DraftKings are going to go up a little bit this week for the top end guys, the Brooks Koepkas of the world, the Dustin Johnsons. How do you think those Live golfers, value wise, on both the DFS and the gambling side, do you think there's value to play them this week and be involved with these guys and risking your money on these guys this week?
Well, I certainly don't think we're going to see the same prices that we did for the Masters on these guys. I think that was definitely something that, the markets probably addressed it, extremely, thoroughly, after, a near triple digit Brooks Koepka almost won the Masters.
Mm-hmm.
So, and obviously with him at 22-1, that is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sixth best odds on the board right now. So obviously that's an interesting thing to take into account. But I still think that the market is going to overrate these golfers a little bit, especially some of the ones that are not in the spotlight as much. The Joaquin Niemans of the world, the Taylor Gooches of the world, Cameron Smith, who is, still been playing some elite golf. He shot a 61 in Tulsa this past weekend and, is 35-1 down the board. But, I still think there's going to be value on these guys. And, we look at some of the DraftKings prices as well. There's still good prices on these guys. So I'm not too worried.
Brooks Koepka for the PGA was almost 100-1. And he was like 75 or 7,600 to win. He had like 4% ownership or something like that. Dustin Johnson was like 8,400 and he had like 8% ownership. Now you're going to get Dustin Johnson 8,800. I think the last I looked, he was 28-1, and he was on my maybe to bet my last bullet on, but 28-1. I don't know what he is now, but he's projected now to be the highest owned golfer on DraftKings in the main event. I mean, that's the difference. All of a sudden, now in the last 4 weeks, some of the elite golfers are playing better on Live. Plus, we all saw them perform well at the Masters. Now there's a lot of, I was questioning Live and whether, it was competitive enough. But these guys are still swinging the same golf clubs, the same golf balls. It's still golf. You know what I mean? 54 holes isn't the same as 72 and no cut and all that. I get that. But the elite golfers still are playing fairly elite at this point.
Yeah, and I do think that there's more of an avenue to play them in DFS than there is, maybe some single round showdown bullets there, in terms of that, because maybe you can depend on them to play a little better, in a 24-hour span rather than a 96-hour span. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's the play with some of these Live guys, especially on a course like Oak Hill that's going to play a lot more difficult than Augusta National did. So maybe that's something to take into account there as far as the DFS streets, and maybe some of these placements are a little bit more of a better play. But I don't think we're going to see a problem with the Live guys contending. I'm pretty sure it was something like 12 out of 18 made the cut, or made the cut and contended at Augusta. I mean, so these guys are obviously still world-class golfers. That hasn't changed. And, obviously the guys who didn't qualify, the guys who didn't receive an invite to to Oak Hill are not here. And those are not the guys you were going to bet anyways. But the guys who deserved an invite to Oak Hill got the invite, and they're here and they're going to play, and they're probably going to play well. I think
that's a very fair assumption on that. I just, I thought it was very interesting to see how just quickly after just the Masters, the narrative of what you do with these guys has changed so much after one PGA event. And, again, Brooks, has contended since, the Masters again. Dustin Johnson winning, last week at Tulsa, all that kind of stuff playing into it there. It's really changed it. But when you talk about PGA Championship, when you talk about majors in general, the elite of the elite only really have a chance. Maybe there's 12 or 13 guys that really have a chance. But we have seen out of all the majors, the PGA has the highest chance of a long shot winning. You had Phil Mickelson a couple years ago. What was he, 65-1 or something like that?
He was 250-1.
Oh, 250. I got in trouble for not betting him at 250 to 1. That's right. My wife found out that I didn't bet him after he hit me, and she's like, "Well, why didn't you bet him?" I'm like, "Why would I? He's 50-some years old." And she got mad at me for that one. So I still haven't lived that down. But you have seen some long shots or longer shots contend here. What makes it so different that these long shots have a chance?
I think it's probably the fact that these are not as much birdie contests as other
Right?
tournaments are, and some of those older guys and guys, all they have to do is play solid golf.
Mhm.
That's really it, and the length may fade, and that'll be a big penalizer this week for some of these older guys. But we watched Phil at Augusta. He's still hitting the ball over 300. He's still getting the club's head speed up there. His short game is as legendary as it ever was. And when the putter's on, I mean, Phil can contend. So it would not shock me. And Phil is in this field. It would not shock me
I
to
want to look
see.
up what he did in his last few lives since the Masters. So he played in 3 live events. He went 11th, 13th, and 45th last week at Tulsa. So he's trending downward. But I don't know. I didn't watch any of the Tulsa event. He still shot even par for the event. He was 71, 69, 70. So it's not like he was shooting 75. It just must have been a birdie fest for him to finish 45th in that event.
Yeah, and I mean, look, this is Phil Mickelson we're talking about. This is a guy who knows how to play these tough courses. I don't remember what he finished in 2013 here. I'm trying to find it, but it's
I
for
could
some
find
reason
it
not showing up.
fairly easily here. Tournament history. Oh, no, not tournament history. I just want Mickelson, and I just clicked on his name. Give me a second.
He finished he finished plus 12. He finished T72 in 2013.
So he made the cut,
Yeah, so he made the cut. Nothing too special, and he finished right at the end. It is notable that Brooks Koepka finished 11 over. Gary Woodland finished 13 over. So all those guys were down at the bottom of the board there. But look,
I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm anti Phil Mickelson the way he's handled this whole live situation.
Of course.
But when he was in contention at the Masters for like 5 minutes, I kind of just blocked that out of my mind. And I forget which shot it was on Saturday or Sunday. When he made a huge shot, I pumped my fist right along. Like, I just forgot about it because Phil Mickelson is just one of those legends that when he's swinging, when he's in contention, it just, I don't know, just makes it
golf seems to be becoming easy to fill right now. So for me, it wouldn't shock me if he found a way into contention, and whatever contention looks like at Oak Hill, we have to keep in mind this golf score, this winning score could easily be single digits and low single digits at that. I mean, Justin Thomas won at 5 under, Duffner won at 10 under in 2013, but again, we have to note he set a course record. So the likelihood of that happening again is not likely, and obviously they made this course 10 times harder. So I don't see it. Do I see a live player winning? Probably not. If I had to guess one, it's definitely Brooks Koepka. But again, it's just so hard to win a golf tournament, and we have so many good names in the field. So
all right, well let's get to the top of the board. Obviously, you got the big 3. I saw somebody call him the big 2.5. Jason, who's on the show from time to time, telling me that Rory McIlroy has now distanced himself from the big 3. And it's the big.
He does. He needs therapy. Yeah, he needs a. I will not bet Rory McIlroy until he brings a therapist to his tournament and talks with his therapist prior to teeing off, because that man's got some serious. Whatever it is, being the face of the PGA Tour is not easy. This is not something that Rory is used to doing. He never had to do it. It was always Tiger. And now that Tiger has stepped back and Rory has kind of stepped into being the face of the PGA Tour, that's clearly taken a toll on both his mental health and his playing health. And until something changes, he admitted as much. It's taken a toll on him. So until something changes, there's absolutely no reason that you should be betting Rory McIlroy. That's why he's down at almost 15 to 1. And
now,
that's where he's going to stay.
I'm not betting him, and I'm not playing him on my DraftKings card. But if you want to look for a way to be different, I mean, there are some places projecting him to be 8, 9, 10% owned. Like, if you're worried about a 20+% owned Scotty Scheffler or John Rahm, and you want to take a chance to differentiate yourself, you can't go wrong. I mean, the odds Rory misses another major cut is not likely. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So you could take a chance on a DraftKings I won't do it. I got other places that I'm going to get creative on my card, but you could make an argument on a DraftKings end of things. It's a great way to get different. It just won't be me. I still haven't figured out. I told you before the show, I don't have lineups written on Monday night. I'm going to either go all in on Jon Rahm or all in on Scotty Scheffler. I just haven't decided which one will be my main DraftKings guy. But there's a strong chance that one of those two people are hoisting the trophy on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I don't disagree as well. And my article, my predictions article that I put out today for the game day, Jon Rahm is my under prediction. It's Jon Rahm. And it's simple for me. It comes down to something that not a lot of people are talking about. Scotty Scheffler, it ranks 132nd in his last 24 rounds in sand saves gained, deep bunkers. Give me the guy who's less bad. Jon Rahm ranks 61st. So not something that's too highly ranked in my model this week, but sand save gained nonetheless. I'm taking that with the around the green, and I'm going Rahm's way there. So
you also, I'm going off the DraftKings, so your odds might be in a slightly different order. You also have in that 10K and above elite category, you have Brooks Koepka and you have Collin Morikawa as well. I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to trick people or play around with people. I don't see why Collin Morikawa should be ranked higher on the DraftKings board than, say, a Xander Schauffele or a Patrick Cantlay, who are just below at the top of the 9K range. I don't have the confidence in Collin Morikawa. He just has seemed a little bit off for a little while. He's still a really good golfer. He's still contending, but he's still contending in the sense where at the end of a tournament, you see his name on that leaderboard, but he was never really in contention in those events. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and he's missed his last couple of cuts. He missed the cut at the RBC Heritage. I mean, he's not been in the greatest place for his game the past couple months. He switched back to a soft putter grip that he used to win his major titles. But we have to remember one thing: Collin Morikawa won one of his major titles, and it was the PGA in a COVID world. It was a much different circumstance. Less fans were there, lot less pomp and circumstance, a little bit of an easier scenario to win a golf tournament in. And since then, Morikawa has kind of lost a little bit of the shine. His putting objectively sucks. His around the green play objectively sucks.
Oh my God. His putting, his last few events, he's gone minus 4.8, minus 2.3, minus 2.6, minus 0.9. He did gain strokes at Genesis, but then lost 2.5 more at Phoenix. I mean,
you're not winning tournaments putting up putting stats like that on fast greens like you're gonna see at Oak Hill. It's just not going to work out. And you're getting some better, some past history bias here with the DraftKings price is my guess, based on the fact that he won at TPC Harding Park in 2020, that would be my guess as to why he's in the 5-digit range. But he's going to be the lowest. He's going to be the guy that's lowest owned in that 10K range. And rightfully so. I would be personally shocked if he contends this week.
I mean, it's crazy because you always talk about ownership percentage in DFS, and I don't really focus on it as much as others do. I find ways to get different, but if I like a player, I'm playing them. Whether their ownership's high or not, I always play them. But then you look and you got Collin Morikawa, who is overpriced, and his odds don't match up to him. Then you got further down the board, you got Xander and Patrick Cantlay, and I know we talked before the air that I was going to bring up my Patrick Cantlay, conversation, but you can make a conversation that both those guys have a better chance at winning this event than Collin Morikawa, maybe even Rory McIlroy at this point.
Yeah, and look, I've never been shy about what I think about Patrick Cantlay. He disgusts me. It's mostly the fact that he is slower than a tortoise, and just his general demeanor makes me ill. And I don't like the guy. I don't know why. I just don't. Something about him rubs me the wrong way.
I agree with that on Patrick Cantlay. He's annoying to watch play golf. But in my opinion, just his golf game, he belongs in the conversation with Rory, Rahm, and Scotty Scheffler. That's how good I think he is.
And I think
in major championships. And I still think he wins one. And I think his game translates to Oak Hill very, very well.
I think from a course fit perspective, just a guy who's absolutely elite off the tee. His driving accuracy is so good. He's I want to say he's the third best strokes gained approach player in the world right now. In terms of his past stats, just gaining event after event after event after event, and his putting has just been ass lately. And I think that's pretty much been what it is. But his around the green play is always super strong. I mean, he is just a pretty elite course fit. He came in at 11th on my model. It's nothing great. His around the green is average,
Yeah.
and he's not the best out of the sand, but in par fours, 450 to 500 that make up, I believe it's 6 or 7 of the holes on this course. He ranks second in his last 24 rounds, and he's also great from that longer proximity. I mean, Cantlay is a guy who's going to be very, very safe bet for people, and I think he's probably going to be pretty highly owned in DraftKings. But I think that people should automatically go to take him to get top 10, and I believe it's sitting around plus 250 right now. And that's going to be a bet I make. That's going to be a bet I make for sure.
I was at the Wells Fargo. He said that there was about a 20-minute wait in between camps. And I don't think Kyle's exaggerating there whatsoever.
I don't think so either.
But so I bet Patrick Cantlay at 22-1 to win.
Okay.
See, my thing is Patrick Cantlay. I've been on the Patrick Cantlay train for so long in talking about him in that Elite 3 group that I don't want to miss when he wins a major. Like, I'm just going to keep, even if he wins this major, it won't cover all my losses. But for some reason, I just want to say I was right that Patrick Cantlay will win a major. So I just keep betting him every single time.
I agree for sure.
I just think Patrick Cantlay, and then we could group this with Xander. I think Patrick Cantlay and Xander's floor is so good this week. Like, I would put it like close to 90-95% that both of them are in the top 10 at the end of this tournament. I don't see them falling to 20th or 30th in this field. Like, that's how good their games translate. So, like, Xander might have a slightly better chance at winning this event, I don't know, than Patrick Cantlay, but both those guys are, in my mind, stone cold locks to be in the top 10 at the end of this week.
Yeah, I think I'm actually a little bit lower than Xander on most, or lower than most people on Xander. I haven't liked where his strokes gained off the tee has been in some recent weeks. He's been spraying it a little bit, but apart from that part of his game, admittedly a huge part of this course, I mean, he's been really well. But the same thing with Xander is just the same thing with Xander. He can't close. He does not play well on Sundays. Whatever it is, he does not handle having a lead well. He's just one of those guys who's just not quite there for me. So I would definitely group him in with Cantlay on guys that I think will contend but not win.
Okay. The rest of this 9K range, obviously you got Jordan Spieth with the.
I think he's going to withdraw. His odds keep sinking. That's a sign he's going to withdraw.
And I heard somebody post that it was 50-1, so he's dropped.
Yeah, he's currently at 45. Yeah, I think he's going to withdraw tomorrow.
If he's got a wrist issue and the super thick rough, it's going to be super hard for him to hit out of it. So that's that. Justin Thomas, the defending champion, his odds keep dropping. I love him. I don't know who you want to talk about, but I want to talk about Viktor Hovland for a second. Another guy that hasn't won, and everybody knows he's got one really bad part of his game. Is around the green play.
That's a huge part of this course, man.
And the thing is, his problem is he is super aggressive. Super aggressive a golfer. He bombs it off the tee, and then he just goes for it no matter what. Is there any chance that somebody has, maybe Rory, has found a psychiatrist or something like that, and also talking to Viktor about your dial it back a touch? Because I kind of feel like Viktor Hovland is going to win a major. This is probably not the place for him, but if he could just somehow learn to control his aggressiveness, he could rattle off multiple major wins in a row.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do agree. That's Viktor's, by far Viktor's Achilles heel is the fact that he is way too aggressive on some shots. He does it with the putter too. He's been a good putter. He's been very good putter lately. So, that's an improving part of his game as well. But that around the green thing, that's going to kill him in a course like Oak Hill. It's just not the place that you want to be a below average chipper.
He's gotten slightly better around the green. I mean, from when he was losing 4 strokes around or a tournament. The last couple events, he's only lost 0.7, 1, 1.4. That's a huge improvement for him. He's only losing one
It
stroke.
unfortunately still ranks outside the top 120, but
I remember doing a 2 or 3 weeks ago when he was in an event. I remember doing a test. I did my model just for one thing, where he was in around the green out of the last 50 rounds, 36 and 24. He was in the top 100 of all 3 of those, but it was progressively getting better, just still not quite better. Something just has to give with him. I don't know. Any of these other names, Cam Young, Sung J M, any of these guys you like?
Yeah, I'm a huge Sung J M fan this week. I think this is a perfect course for him. In terms of just he's the most consistent golfer in the world right now. He doesn't have.
He also
he
plays
has,
the most golf.
Well, I mean, he plays the most golf, but he's also in the. He's always there on Sunday.
Yeah.
So I mean, his last six finishes are a T8, T6, T7, T7, T16, and T17. Not in that order, but still, that does include Augusta, where I think he finished T17. That includes a couple designated events. I mean, he's been really, really good. So, I mean, and plus his metrics look really good for Oak Hill. I mean, 13th off the tee, 35th on approach, 19th around the green, 8th in bogeys avoided each of his last 24 rounds. And I talked about his distance a little bit earlier. His distance, 297.7 off the tee. That's not going to win you anything at Oak Hill. But the fact that he's so elite on the second shot, his irons, his long iron approach play is so good. I'm so comfortable with it. He's really good from that 200 plus proximity. Ranks in the top 25 there. I'm just all in on Sung J M. I think he's going to win a major this year, and this seems like it could also be a good one for him. He's just playing really good golf, and he just came back from Korea where he won on the KPGA Tour last week instead of playing the Byron Nelson.
Right. Which maybe he's a little tired from flying back from from Korea. I don't know. Maybe no, I don't. I don't play that game. I don't play the travel game. These guys are professionals. They travel all year long.
Yeah.
I will say one other thing about this 9K range. Cam Smith, another one of those live golfers, and I love Cam Smith's game. I'm not happy that he's on live. He was the one that disappointed me the most by going to live, just because he was one of my favorite golfers. He does not set up well here. I mean, he sprays the ball off the tee way too much.
He does, but he always makes par. He always finds a way to make par. It's uncanny. You ever notice that about him? He always finds a way to get up and down, and I think that can mitigate. That can mitigate his off the tee.
Can he find enough birdies to counteract the bogeys? And
That's fair.
I just don't. I don't know about him. But
I do want to talk about Cam Young before we move on out of the 9K range.
He's on my list here as a maybe. So
So some Ron Klaus over at BetSperts is one of the best data analysts in the game, and he pointed out something.
I don't even watch it. I just follow his Twitter account. Just the stuff he posts on Twitter is immensely informative.
Absolutely helpful. So helpful. But I noticed something he posted earlier today, and I'm doing it right off the head. I don't want to go on Twitter right now, but the thing with Oak Hill is that you're not going to get a lot of rollout on these fairways because they're pretty soft. So what you want are guys that are not, driving distance heavy on the rollout, but on the carry. Guess who was the longest driver on the tour from a carry perspective?
Bet you I know who you're going to say. Cam Young.
His name is Cameron Young. And look, it's just something I can't help myself. I'm going to take Cameron Young in some shape or form to finish highly in this event because it's a major, and he's almost done it 3 times now where he's finished in the top 10 of a major. He hasn't won a tournament yet. It's going to happen soon. Why not have it be a major? And look, he's from the Northeast. He's from this area. This is his home area. He grew up in this area. So he is not unfamiliar with courses like this at all. I think that he could easily get going, out here and really, really kind of turn it on. And he's got an advantage, a lot of these guys don't have. He is a very good iron player. So I believe it.
I mean, I bet him. He was one of my first when I had my first 3 bets. He was one of the first 3 I made, 35-1. I just think on a DraftKings side, it's the rumors are bouncing around who's going to be the highest owned guy on DraftKings this week. And sometimes some people when we get to the 8K range are projecting Dustin Johnson to be the highest owned guy. Some people are projecting Cam Young at what is he 92 on DraftKings to be the highest owned guy. So on a DraftKings side of things, because I do think he's got, a really, really low floor. Yeah, I mean, he could finish 60th. He could finish 55th easily, at 25% potentially. It's not a good DraftKings play, but as a bet, there's no doubt about it. It's worth a couple pennies to throw Cam Young's way on the draft on the betting board.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, in the 8K range, there's a lot of names. Obviously, I just mentioned Dustin Johnson, Jason Day finally getting back into the win column last week. My favorite golfer on tour this year, Max Homa. You got Tyrell Hatton, Shane Lowry, you mentioned, Sam Burns. I mean, there's some names. This is a loaded range here. We don't have to cover them all. I want to know who's your favorite guy in this middle of the board here in the 8K, that mid range.
How does Sam Burns, who has, and I wanna rattle these names off for you.
Go for it.
There is one golfer who has more PGA Tour events in the past 2 years than Sungjae Im, Jordan Spieth, Tyrrell Hatton, Hideki Matsuyama, Tommy Fleetwood, Adam Scott, Shane Lowry, and Ricky Fowler combined. Why is Sam Burns 8,200 on DraftKings? Why is he 55-1 on DraftKings? Like this doesn't make any sense to me. The guy has 4 wins in his past, season and a half. He's a terrific player anytime he suits up. It doesn't matter the course. He's been out there with these tough courses, and he's been absolutely fine. Why can Sam Burns not contend at a place like this, despite it not being his normal track that he does well
on? You're asking the wrong person because I have no idea. My concerns are because there's a lot of smart people that see this with Sam Burns, that on the DraftKings side, just like Cam Young, a lot of people are going to be clicking his name because he should contend here. He should play well here.
So you think he's bad chalk?
I think he's bad chalk. I don't know if there's. I don't believe in the bad chalk. You know what I mean? Okay. Like I don't. Like if you really think Sam Burns can win this event, like I don't know if he can win this event. I think he's too far down the board to win the event. Can he finish top 20? Absolutely. Well, I was just looking up as you were talking his finishes. He's never contended in a major, really. So that is part of it right there. Just like Cam Young never winning or Patrick Cantlay never performing well at a major, Sam Burns, I think I saw 20th place and a couple like 28th to 50th in majors in the last couple of years. He does not contend at major events. I don't know what the case is there. He's a great driver of the golf ball. He's great off the tee. He does a lot of things well. He just, I don't know. Did I bet him? I did not bet him yet. No. He is on my list of maybe my final bullet, but
yeah, let him keep tumbling down the board. He seems his numbers seem like he keeps tumbling down.
The name I was more into than Sam Burns was Tyrell Hatton.
Interesting.
Because of his, I mean, he's got a lot of volatility. There's no doubt about it.
Talk about a guy who hasn't really showed anything in a major.
Right, I know.
Is playing really, really good golf right now.
See, I like the theory about a lot of golfers. Are they different this year than they've ever been? And I mean, you look at Tyrell Hatton, 5th, 3rd, 19th, 34th, miscut, 2nd, 4th, 40th, 6th, 13th. I mean, we can keep going back. And he's doing it tee to green, off the tee. He's cleaned up his around the green game. He's cleaned up his putter. I mean, the guy is playing damn good golf right now. And I didn't bet him, but I was looking at like maybe a top. He's definitely a DraftKings play for me, without a shadow of a doubt. And I was thinking about top 20 maybe for Tyrell Hatton. I was waiting to see how that. I think he was at plus 2 something when I last looked, or low 200s last I looked. But I like Tyrell Hatton. Sometimes I like on DraftKings a little bit more volatility. You know what I mean? On DraftKings, you want those guys to have a chance to contend. Burn, I don't know. Does Burns just not have the notoriety or likability? He doesn't really seem to have much personality, does he? I mean, kind of seems just like sticks to himself. I don't know.
I don't know. I've never really thought about it that way. I like Sam Burns. I think he seems like a fun. I think he seems like a fun guy. He's not a Jordan Spieth. He's not Tyrrell Hatton, that's for sure. But Scotty Scheffler is not the most expressive guy, and people love him plenty.
I mean, he bores me, Scotty Scheffler. Honestly, he's too good. Sorry, I'd rather watch.
He just seems like a quiet Midwestern guy. I think that's what Scotty Scheffler is.
Totally off subject, but I want some dirt. I want TMZ to catch Scotty Scheffler doing something stupid. Like I just do.
No shot. Shot.
I know there's no shot, but I want the good old Texas Christian boy from down south, some dirt on him. I just want it so bad. I know it's way off topic. But yeah, so my in this 8K range, I mean, Tommy Fleetwood's a guy that can contend it on DraftKings, and Max Homa, like his numbers bounced all over the place from 3-4 weeks ago till now. I bet him for the U.S. Open. Like
so did I, but everyone's going to bet him for the U.S. Open, so that might be a bad thing.
When I clicked him, I think I got him at like 45 or 50 to 1. When I bet him, I clicked bet for the U.S. Open, and then like maybe it should have been the PGA Championship that I bet him at. I don't know. He's another guy. Is this just too far down the line? It's either a long shot or it's going to be one of the top 4 or 5 guys.
I mean, I could definitely see it. I personally don't think Homa is long enough to win here. He's one of those guys who's another really, really elite iron player, but I'm pretty sure Homa's average driving distance is like 290.
According to Fantasy National, it's got his over the last 12 months, his driving distance average at 307.
Really? Interesting.
FantasyNational.com. Check them out, people. Sponsor of the show here. Great site. Best model making tools in the business. It's got on his profile page 307, 60% driving accuracy, 66% greens and regulations.
He's only 40th off the tee, so not very strong, but he did come out 5th in my model because he ranks really well in that par 4, 450 and 500, and he's he's always going to be good. Around the green.
He's also very good if you look at his wins, and I've literally bet accurately every single one of his wins. I've never missed a Max Homa win. He's not on my card to bet yet, but you never know.
Yeah. The thing with him is that
he plays great grinding golf course as well.
Yeah.
When it's a single digit winning score, it seems like Max Homa is always in contention.
Yeah, and people will point to people will point to the California thing with him. You always bet Max Homa on California courses. He did win the Wells Fargo TPC Potomac on this side of the USA a couple of years ago. So that could be, kind of a little bit of a comp course. It's not too similar to Oak Hill, but it has enough, tree lined and longer with the deep bunkers. And I believe it is a Donald Ross design. So it's not too far off. So I do like Homa there.
Okay. So let's jump into the next category. That's the 7K range. Obviously always loaded with names, all different kinds of names. I only have 2 or 3 names I want to talk about. There's a lot of names I like in this range. I do want to address Kyle brought him up a few minutes ago in this range, and that's one Mr. Wyndham Clark, who I have bet every single week this year, Wyndham Clark, except for 1 week. Do you know which week I didn't bet Wyndham Clark?
Last week.
I did not bet Wyndham Clark when he chose to finally win a golf tournament. And it broke my heart. But Wyndham Clark does hit the ball almost 320 yards driving distance average, which is going to be great. And when you have that driving distance, if you do get in that he sprays the ball wildly and accurately, at least he'll have the power to get out of this thick rough. We've seen a different Wyndham Clark. Do you like Wyndham Clark this week?
I don't know. I tend to think that he's one of those guys who people are going to have a lot of recency bias on, and they're going to bet him for that reason. And I'm not too in love with him this week. He came out second in my model, but I don't blindly follow the model. Yeah, and he's at 90 to 1. There are other guys in that range that I think are better golfers than Wyndham Clark. I could just be, again, leaning too heavily into the recency bias and, not really wanting to base things off of that. Maybe it's flying right in front of my eyes and I'm not seeing it. But truthfully, there are other guys in the 90 to 1 range that I'm looking at right now. Like, I'd be more interested in Russell Henley. I'd be more interested in Gary Woodland. I'm more interested.
We've already mentioned off the air Gary Woodland. That's one of the other 3 names I love in this area. Gary Woodland's a big game player, won a major, playing great golf this year. I got him at 100 to 1. I know it early before this week started. He was up to 160 to 1 on some betting sites.
Yep.
Below 100 now. I bet 2 long shots, and they're right in the same range here. I bet Gary Woodland 100 to 1, and I bet Ricky Fowler 80 to 1.
Yep. And let me tell you one more that I bet at 90 to 1. And nobody's talking about him. And he's number 1 in my model this week. It's Joaquin Neiman.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting one. You know, we remember this kid. He's built like Will Zalatoris. He weighs like 120 pounds, but he hits the ball, 315 yards, and he drives it pretty accurately. His last 24 rounds on the PGA Tour, 10th in strokes gained off the tee, 20th in strokes gained approach, 19th in bogeys avoided, 5th in par 450 to 500. Top 30 in the proximity bucket from 200 plus. I mean, he checks nearly all the boxes. 19th in bogeys avoided. He checks every box that I was looking for this week.
And played well on the Live Tour.
Absolutely, he's got the recent form coming in.
Yeah,
he's gonna check both boxes. My buddy Hunter, who I used to work with over at Fantasy Points, Huntman DFS.
Yeah, he's been on here a few times.
I love his Venn diagrams that he does every week, and I think Neiman's probably going to land right in the middle for him in terms of that course fit plus analytics fit. And so I'm going to be betting Neiman at 90 to 1. That's a pretty.
I mean, he's on my DraftKings. I start with a potential pool. He's in that.
He's going to be the guy that I bet. I click each little thing, and I'm going to see him pretty easily down my list. I mean, he is plus 320 on FanDuel for a top 20. I mean, that's going to be something that I throw a couple units on probably.
He's about 13% projection ownership on Fantasy National.
And that's pretty good. That's pretty good ownership for him too.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid. I think Neiman's a great play. He's another one of those guys that, we'd be talking about him so much more this year on the PGA Tour if he would have stayed on the PGA Tour, and he might have a few more wins under his belt because he was trending to not just take off, but really,
I mean, when he went wire to wire at Genesis last year, everyone thought he was the next big star. He was 20 to 1 every tournament, 20 to 1, 25 to 1, 30 to 1. Majors, he was 35 to 1. I mean, he was that guy in that elite range, that second tier of golfers. Or third tier, depending how you look at it. And he was the guy that everyone thought was going to be the next big star. And then he went to Live, him and Mito, hanging out over there. And, good for him for capitalizing on that. But I think he missed out.
You gave me a great segue to the bottom, to the 6K range, the long shots. And you mentioned Mito's name. I mean, he's 7K. He's not in the 6K yet. Returning not to the exact scene of the crime, but obviously Mito had the huge collapse at the PGA last year. I was looking at his live numbers. He's been very inconsistent. He's had a bunch of 5th place finishes and a bunch of bottom of the board finishes. Do you like a guy with the background story that it's like the redemption story? Do you ever buy into redemption stories?
Oh, absolutely. Narrative is huge on the PGA Tour. I mean, these guys are heavily motivated. I think Mito probably beat himself up for a couple weeks after blowing the lead on the 18th hole Sunday last year, and then immediately circled this week in his calendar and started planning not for Live, not for whatever tournaments he was still on the PGA Tour for, but for this week and this tournament, and to show that he can come back and put it all behind him. So I'll be throwing a little bit of a bet on Mito as well. I won't be throwing on him to win. He is all the way down the board here, I believe, in the triple digits.
He's got to be triple digits.
He is 190 to 1. Honestly, at that price, I may just throw a shekel.
Yeah,
throw a little shekel on him.
Yeah, a couple pence.
Yeah, seriously, like
you might as well at that point.
I don't even have to throw $5 on him. Yeah. It'd be $5 to win $1,000. But no, I'm gonna throw some money on him to finish in the top 40, top 30, maybe. And I think he has something to prove. And I like guys like that, especially at majors. You like guys that have something to prove, that first of all, they know that they can do it because they've been here before.
Mhm.
That I don't think that was a fluke for Mito. I think if he stayed on the PGA Tour, he would have won again pretty quickly. And I think he would have been in perfect condition. He really didn't play that badly at the Masters. He had a few holes that put him down the scope. But I think Mito is raring to go for this tournament.
That's interesting. I'm glad you're on board with that. All right, we could go around the low 7K, upper 6K. I do want to throw out one thing because I love Rick Run Good. He's my favorite show to watch. He's entertaining, a lot of information there, and he dropped a little tease towards the end of his DFS preview this week, and a guy that I've burned from my memory bank, burned it. He's like, if there's ever going to be a week that this guy re-shows up, it could be this week because of the distance. And last week he finished 5th on Live, and that is one long hitter, Mr. Bryson DeChambeau. He's actually, since the Masters missed cut, he's gone like 26th, like 18th, and then 5th. He's trended up.
Have you seen what Bryson looks like? Have you seen what Bryson looks like?
No,
He's dropped like 30 pounds.
Well, that's good. He was bulking up too much. That was going to hurt him. But if you remember peak Bryson a few years ago when he was just driving the greens on par fives and just bomb, it was entertaining as hell. And I was Team Bryson all the way. And I burned him from my memory banks because I lost way too much money on him. And then the Live thing, and then the injury and everything else. Like, I burned it. But then the guy I trust the most, Rick Run Good, goes and drops a little nugget. Not that I think he can win, but you never know. And I was like, what the hell? Now my whole mind's screwed up. Maybe I have to pay attention to Bryson again.
I don't know. I'd soon, if I was playing DraftKings this week and looking in the where is Bryson anyways?
He's 7,400 on DraftKings.
7,400.
Hold up his ownership percentage for 1 second. I just closed it out for a second.
I don't know. I just don't know.
He's projected to be owned in 3.2% of line. Only.
Yeah, but perhaps there's just a reason for that. There are guys in that range I'd rather have over him. I think Denny McCarthy is a guy that I would rather have over him at that price. Russell Henley is a guy I'd rather have over him at that price.
I would take Emilio Grillo, Højgaard, all those guys over him. I would take Mito over him.
I'd take Cam. You know who I really like this week? Cam Davis is very intriguing to me. Again, not as a winner, but another placement. I'm gonna literally have way too much money in placements. I just got paid for the first time at the new job today, and it just has me feeling like I can do anything at this point. But I really like Cam Davis, Thomas Dietrich, but both they're both really good from tee to green.
I like a guy just below that 7K range, and that's Bobby Mack. That's 6,900. Robert McIntyre.
Yeah, but I don't know. I wonder if this course suits lefties well.
Well, that's something that I always tend to think about a little bit. But the guy plays really good guy. I mean,
that same tier. What about a guy like Tom Hoagie? Elite approach play.
I wrote him down
decent
right next
accuracy.
To Bobby Mack's name.
Yeah.
Bobby Mack's just another one of those big game hunters.
Yeah,
plays well.
He does. He does that. I've noticed that the last couple Masters.
Yeah, people forget about him because he plays on Europe all the time. When he comes over here, he's in contention 9 times out of 10.
The Scottish Lord.
You give me a 5% owned Bobby Mack at 6,900 and pair him with John Rahm. You've got a core base of your line. You're 11-4 and 6,900 on a DraftKings level. That gives you a good balanced start of your lineup right there. And I like it.
Yeah, there's quite a few guys in the 6K range, and that's going to happen with majors. Those guys are always going to get pushed down towards the back because you have all these other guys coming in off PGA pros and guys from the European Tour, guys from the KFT who have qualified through one way or another. But so you're always going to have some of those kind of grinder guys that get pushed down towards the back of the odds board, and there's always going to be some value on there. You really just have to pick and choose. It's like closing your eyes and pinning the tail on the donkey, trying to find the one that works best for you. But there's a bunch of them that are really good this week.
For my man Kyle, one final name, and that's Justin Sue. He loves his Justin Sue. He bets Justin Sue all the time, and whenever he tells me to bet him top 10, I don't. And he finished in the top 10 for Honda and the Players, just like Kyle said. No, not Justin Sue. He's been atrocious. Kyle, the last 4 weeks said he's played on tour. Just so you know, there's no way you could bet Justin Sue, Kyle. I'm looking at
Yeah,
it right
it's
now.
not. I don't.
It's not pretty. It's not pretty at all.
He ranks 125th in the model this week. Not very good.
That's. I mean, remember you said you can't take everything in the model seriously.
Yeah, but still, I mean, I bet him at the Zurich, and I bet him a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't like what I saw from him. I bet him based off the tee to green thing, and if I was still going off of that, I'd bet him for like a top 40, something like that. But I don't know if you can trust him. This seems like a course that he's really going to struggle with.
He missed the last cut, so
yeah, this seems like a course he's going to really struggle with.
Yeah, I just don't think he's got it. Sorry. I mean, another beer on the line between me and Kyle on Justin Sue. I think I'm 0 for now so far on that. But
funny enough, another funny note. I'm looking at the model. Sam Burns 111th in the model, below 1 Ye Yang.
Ye Yang.
Blast from the past. I mean, there's some guys. There's some guys up here I will definitely consider. Dustin Johnson notably ranks 88th here. Bryson 87th. Kepka 84th.
Hilarious thing with the models, like you made your model, mine's completely different. I got Sam Burns at 47th. I got Dustin Johnson at 18th in my model.
Interesting. Interesting.
Because, no offense, who'd you say was number 1 in your model?
Neiman.
You can't trust it. If John Rahm or Scotty Scheffler is not 1 or 2 in your model, you just got to throw it out. You're doing something wrong if John Rahm or Scotty Scheffler is not at the top.
I don't think so.
Just so you know, Neiman is 11th in my model too. So
what I did is I put a huge premium on approach off the tee and around the green, and kind of laid back on everything else and let everything else kind of just flow in there. Right. Very, I'm pretty bare bones with the model. I don't put too much. I don't put too heavy of a thing in there. I like to go, 3 heavy things on top that are my 3 most important. Bogeys avoided is up there for me as well. It's a couple percentage points back. That's a huge thing here, and then everything else is 10%.
Yeah. All right. So final point on this golf tournament, PGA Championship this week. Your final call. If you have a gun to your head right now, I know you got more content coming out this week and stuff like that. Gun to your head. This guy's winning. I don't care what the odds say. I don't care what. Who is winning this golf tournament this week?
John Rahm.
Yeah. It's crazy because I can't. I wish he'd be like 12 or 14 to 1. I'd use my plus 300 on him. The boost on DraftKings. I would bet him, and I would cut out half my bets and just put all the money on John Rahm. But
honestly,
value at 7 or 8 to 1.
One other guy I want to talk about. We didn't get to talk about him. Big Tony Finau.
How did we not talk about Tony Finau?
He's got 1 finish outside of the top 30 this entire season when he's made the cut, and he's only missed the cut once.
Yeah,
but he's got 1 finish outside of the top 30.
You can tell me he's going to win the golf tournament. I'll believe you. He's that. I don't know if you remember back when this show first started, like 2.5 years ago. I used to sell shirts with 5th place Finau written on them. Okay,
top 5 Tony. Top 5 Tony.
Finau, man.
One of the best golf nicknames ever.
Now he's money Finau. He's and people now got a little taste into his home life and his family life with the full swing and all. Tony Finau, you can't convince me that he won't win this golf tournament. I just don't know if I can bet it or not. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I think I'm gonna put it. Put a bet on it. He was in my article on the game day. And I'm still tweaking things around there. I'll have a props page out tomorrow.
I'm just curious how it's funny. I'm looking at his ownership over the last 4 events that he played in: Wells Fargo, Mexico, Masters, and the Players. Obviously, Mexico Open was a weak field. Rahm was like 39%. He was 27%. Wells Fargo was a really strong field, but he was only 11% in Wells Fargo. But at the Masters, obviously a super deep field, he was well over 20%. So he's getting on a DraftKings side of things. People are clicking his name because they think he's going to win that major. And maybe a little too much clicking on his name for my tasting. But the guy's got it. He's got it in his game for sure to win this.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just such a good golfer, and I really love the changes that he's made to his swing and his game. He's just become such a more well-rounded player this year. I remember seeing the swing change at the Tournament of Champions, and low key panicking, like saying to myself, I can't bet this guy anymore. This guy's swing looks like crap.
Yeah.
Because he changed his entire swing. It became more shallow. You know, he
It
took a
almost
little
looks
bit
like
off the
John
back
Rahm
of it.
in the golf club a little bit more.
Yeah.
And isn't he hanging out with John Rahm in the offseason now a lot? You know, I wonder what's going on. I hear there's a lot of gambling going on between the two of them on the golf course. You know,
Really?
a lot of competition.
I think we like that.
Yeah, you know, there's a very strong friendship and kinship between the two of them that have formed, and all of a sudden, Tony Finau's a better golfer. Go figure.
Yeah.
The best golfer in
Yeah.
the world hangs out with a guy like him, takes him to a next level.
I wonder if that friendship includes the first two major winners of the season.
I don't know. You know what? I think you just locked up my final bullet right there. What's he at right now? I got to get on DraftKings after the show and lock it in.
He is currently on DraftKings at 22. It's steep. I took it earlier at 29.
I still have
you
my
can use your boost.
Yeah,
you can
I
use your boost.
25.
25 is a good number.
Maybe I'll wait to see if it drops a little bit tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm looking right now on the other sites, and I am seeing. So if you have FanDuel, Tony Finau's over there at 29-1 right now.
I have no money left on FanDuel right now.
I would go in there and deposit a couple bucks. Deposit a couple bucks, man, because I know that's what I'm gonna do immediately following this show.
Check my email, see if I got any match bonus emails from them. Like that. Real quick, I do want to say I mentioned it on my morning show today, but this is a gambling show, and you know the gambling world lost a legend this week. And I know you play poker sometimes, not as much as you used to. I used to play a lot of poker.
I remember we've talked about that a ton.
Yeah, and the gambling world, the guy that I studied, and the living legend, Doyle Brunson, Texas Dolly, passed away this weekend, almost 90 years old. There's no such thing as a poker player, casual or professional, that did not at least study a little bit of his teachings in the poker world. And he was just, I don't know if you follow a lot of poker players. I do.
Did you ever read Super System?
I did.
You ever read his book?
I did. Learned a lot from it.
It's the book. It's the book that every recreational poker player should read. I learned nearly everything from reading Super System and Super System 2.
I mean, I won't lie. I think most professionals in the 40 and 50-year-old range have read it as well. You know what I mean? When I first was dabbling, and a friend of mine who was a little bit more advanced in the professional world, he's like, dude, you're really good. Read this book. It'll take you to the next level. And it did. So I just thought, the outpouring of support I've seen on social media, the stories of what he's done for fans and other poker players, lost the legend right there. And I just thought we should give him a little shout out here to close the show, because nothing's better than watching a high stakes poker game on TV when he was involved in it. Yeah,
and you can argue that nobody has done more for poker than Doyle Brunson. And just the way that the stories that people tell. That was the guy. Like, there was no like celebrity, there was no like public persona and private persona for Doyle Brunson. The two were merged together, and he was just he seemed like a naturally good guy who only retired from the WSOP a few years back because he had to go take care of his wife. A guy whose skill really kind of stood firm until the end. Like, I saw him make a fold a couple of years ago with he had trip aces, and he was up against a river boat, and he managed to fold the trip aces on the river and make a very tough fold. And I'm pretty sure that 98% of poker players couldn't make that fold, but Doyle could, because that's just Doyle. And
also, when you're that old and you've played the millions
you've seen everything.
You've seen it. Like me and you, we could exchange war stories of bad beats. But we could never tell a story that Doyle's like, oh, that happened to me 20 times already. What are you talking about?
How many? I wonder how many players, because I saw some people like Scott Seaver, for instance, said that he did it. I wonder how many people tried to bluff him with 10-2 off just to say they bluffed Doyle with Doyle.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think that they do it. I mean, I don't know if you ever sat at a table and played the 7-deuce game. I've sat at tables and played the 10-deuce game. People have played the 10-deuce game just as many times, and we do it for that exact reason, because when there's an actual hand named after you, you've done something right in a, I don't know if I'd call poker a sport. Actually, if you play poker for a living, it's it's a sport. The endurance it takes to sit at a
Yeah.
poker table for 12. I've done some 18-hour, sessions before. It takes a lot physically and mentally to do that.
Yeah, it's
And
tough.
yeah,
It's tough, and for Doyle to keep doing that all the way up into his 80s, and play strong, and still play these nosebleed cash games
yeah,
at that age, and at a high level is
yeah,
just absolutely. So yeah, definitely world loss a legend.
yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that he passed away, and I wonder if they're gonna release a cause. I wonder if he was sick. Because I can't remember them ever saying that he was sick,
No,
or dealing with any health issues.
no. I
Um,
saw Todd, his son, post something that
yeah,
he was in the hospital. Then a few minutes later, saw a post saying that we lost my dad, and that was it. So I don't know if he was sick, but I do remember seeing pictures of him out and about just like a couple months ago. So I mean, he
yeah.
wasn't walking; he was using a scooter to get around. But
He's
you
been
know,
using that scooter for
yeah,
a while.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, hopefully, it's a shame, and we'll,
I'll
it's
be
tough.
looking forward to the World Series of Poker this year to
They're
see what
gonna do something special.
they'll
They
have to
they they definitely will.
do for him, and I'm sure it'll be extremely emotional and extremely well thought out and well done there. So we can wrap up the
Absolutely.
show there with that. Again, thank you for tuning in to Fairway to Heaven, everybody, right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. If you're watching the show on replay, hit up me on Twitter at Bearded Knowledge, Swagman95. If you've got any questions for your betting card, the DFS card this week for the PGA Championship, either of us will answer it. No problem. We'd greatly appreciate it. Make sure you share this out. We'll be back tomorrow morning, trending in the AM. We got Flyers talk on the agenda. Sixers are still the hottest topic. I guarantee I watched zero of the Phillies game tonight. Zero of it will be watched. West Coast games don't get watched, but we will be back tomorrow morning, 8:10 a.m. start time. A little early to get all the conversation in. Kyle, everybody that tuned in, much appreciated. We'll see you guys later. For Swagman, I'm Phil Stiefel. Y'all have a great night. We'll talk to you next week.